Evelyn Evie Harper, a 65-year-old truck driver with gray hair and swollen eyes, didn't expect a peaceful day at the Willow Creek rest stop to turn out to be the start of an uncompromising battle. Montana's skies were blue, and the early rays of the sun covered the silent highway, but that silence was quickly broken by the roar of motorcycle engines. The Iron Fong MC gang, with a menacing look and a sharp wolf head symbol on a vest, appeared with the aim of sowing fear. But they chose the wrong audience. Evelyn, a former Army nurse who faced danger on the battlefield, did not succumb easily. Her hand used to the pressure remained steady as she examined her truck, her companion of more than 700,000 miles. The rude faces and sarcastic voices of the gang did not make her flinch. Evelyn knows very well that calm and unity are the strongest weapons. The driver community quickly realized the anomaly, and each truck stopped one by one, forming an underground defensive wall. The atmosphere of tension engulfed, but Evelyn's gaze remained cold and steadfast, ready to face whatever happened. Evelyn Evie Harper started the morning at the Willow Creek rest stop as usual, with inherent meticulousness and composure. Her outstretched hand glided over every part of the shiny red Cascadia Freightliner truck, examining every detail. It's not just work, it's a sign of dedication. The car has traveled hundreds of thousands of miles with her and has never betrayed her. The light morning sun brightens up the symbols on the car, including the Army nurse decal, as a reminder of her military past and bravery. Evelyn is more than just a driver. She is Doc, someone the driver community has always trusted, thanks to her composure and excellent skills. When she saw a young driver struggling, an embarrassed look on his face, Evelyn did not hesitate to step forward. The sound of her boots slamming lightly on the gravel, and her voice was deep but firm. "Do you need help, kid?" With proficient movements, she instructed him how to adjust the car's articulation, making everything stable in an instant. The confused young man thanked him, and Evelyn smiled encouragingly. Everyone starts from scratch. But it was at that moment that the distant roar of the motorcycle engine made her stop. Evelyn's blue-gray eyes gleamed with vigilance, and her posture changed, from a friendly instructor to a warrior accustomed to facing danger. She didn't say any more words, just quietly observed and waited. In Evelyn, the calmness of daily routine always goes hand in hand with the acumen that has been tempered over the years. The roar of the engine shattered the silence of the Willow Creek rest stop, leading to the arrival of 6 motorcycles gliding into the parking lot. Thugs in black leather vests with fierce wolf heads gleaming in the early sun. Evelyn Evie Harper glanced at her from afar, her cold eyes not showing any emotion. Her hands continued to tighten the fasteners on the truck, but her mind had already begun to assess the situation. She knew people like this very well, living on intimidation and control, and she also knew that the best way to deal with them was not to show them any signs of weakness. One of the leaders, tall with a gray beard and visible tattoos on his arms, approached Evelyn's car. "It's beautiful," he sneered, swiping his hand lightly over the glossy surface of the Freightliner Cascadia. Evelyn turned around, her eyes calm but powerful. "Is there anything I can do to help?" she asked, her voice deep but no less sharp. His implicit threat, a warning about carjackings on the road, received only a calm look from Evelyn. "Thanks for the reminder. I'll pay attention," she replied, her voice unwavering. The tension in the air was suddenly broken when the sound of diesel engines from other trucks echoed. 3 large trucks rolled into the yard, parked in a deliberate formation. The drivers stepped down, their eyes focused on the motorcycle group. "Is there a problem, Doc?" Person spoke up, his voice resounding. Evelyn shook her head gently. "Not yet," she replied, but her tone was enough to make it clear that everything was under control. The quiet solidarity of the driver community is like an invisible wall, forcing motorcyclists to retreat in discontent. Evelyn stood there, looking calm, but her eyes were always watching, preparing for any next development. As news of the arrival of the Iron Fong MC gang spread, the atmosphere at the Willow Creek rest station became more tense than ever. Evelyn Evie Harper wasn't surprised, but deep down, she felt the underground wave of solidarity rising in the driver community. Trucks entered the parking lot one after another, each parked close to each other like warriors preparing for a battle. The drivers stepped down, their eyes exchanged silently, and it didn't take many words to understand that they wouldn't let Evelyn face it alone. Evelyn watched it all from afar, her hands clasped in front of her chest and her eyes calm but cold. She clearly felt their presence as a powerful declaration. This is their territory, and they will defend it at all costs. She walked slowly past the trucks, her boots crunching on the gravel floor. Words of appreciation may not be necessary. Instead, Evelyn nodded slightly to each driver, a small but meaningful gesture, as a silent thank you. In the dim light of the sunset, the trucks line up in tight formations, creating a solid wall. She knew that everyone here was willing to stand by her, not only for justice but also for the deep bond between the people who had spent most of their lives on the roads. As night fell, Evelyn quietly re-examined her truck, her hands brushing over each familiar surface. That silence is not fear, but a determination. Solidarity is not just a reaction, but the most powerful weapon they possess. Evelyn, despite standing among dozens of companions, still carries the calmness of a leader, ready for any challenge that comes her way. As night falls, the silence of the Willow Creek rest stop is torn apart by the roar of motorcycles, this time 3 times as crowded as before. Iron Fong MC had returned, the large formation surrounding the restaurant as a threatening siege. Evelyn Evie Harper stood at the edge of the parking lot, her arms crossed in front of her chest, her eyes unwavering at the violent scene in front of her. In her heart, she clearly sensed the danger escalating, but her composure was still like a steel wall, hiding any worries that might arise. The leader, with an overbearing look and cold eyes, walked towards Evelyn. "Why not make things easier? Pay the bail and we'll go," he said, his tone full of coercion. Evelyn didn't flinch. Her blue-gray eyes seemed to pass straight through him. "I don't pay the robber," she replied, every word as sharp as a knife. The decisiveness in his voice made the leader smile faintly, but the anger was evident in his eyes. "I'll just get into trouble myself," he said, his voice lost in defiance. Before he could turn around, the sharp sound of a shotgun on the bullet echoed. Sarah, the owner of the restaurant, stood on the veranda with a weapon in her hand, her eyes shining with determination. "I advise you to think again," her voice sounded, calm but no less menacing. The air seemed to freeze, as the other drivers, one by one, stepped out of the darkness, their eyes fixed on the motorcycle gang. They don't need to say a word. It is this large and unanimous presence that makes the message clear. Any act of violence will not be tolerated. The gang hesitated for a moment before the leader signaled to retreat. The sound of motorcycle engines resounded as they left, but the tension remained in the air. Evelyn stood still, her eyes watching them until only darkness engulfed the entire path. In her heart, a determination arose stronger than ever. This is not only a fight to protect herself, but also to protect the whole community, the people who have built an unbreakable wall of solidarity with her. Evelyn Evie Harper stands in front of her Freightliner Cascadia, the light from the flashlight in her hand reflecting off the carefully reinforced tires. Every step of preparation is done with meticulousness and determination. Her truck is more than just a means of transportation. Now, it has become a fortress, a symbol of her resilience to the coming threat. Evelyn quietly examined the compartments containing medical equipment and emergency supplies, her sharp eyes as if considering every possible possibility. Inside, a smoldering fire burned, burning her determination to protect the route and the community she loved. In addition to the parking lot, other drivers are also rushing to prepare. Brief conversations echoed over the radio. Instructions and strategies were discussed quickly but effectively. Evelyn watched from afar, her eyes deep but shining with determination. She is not just a leader. She is the center of solidarity, the reason that people are willing to stand up and face danger. Every gaze towards her was filled with trust, and Evelyn responded with unwavering calmness. When darkness falls, the atmosphere at the rest station is filled with anticipation. Evelyn checked one last time, her hands touching the army nurse's badge on the car door, as if to remind herself that she had overcome more severe trials. Her lips pursed slightly, her gaze turned to the far side where the lights of motorcycles could appear at any moment. There was no fear, only steadfastness. She knew that this was not just her own battle, but of an entire community standing together for the right. Evelyn clenched her hands, taking a deep breath. The final confrontation was coming, and she was ready. The roar of truck and motorcycle engines roared, tearing apart the quiet night on the narrow road where the final confrontation took place. Evelyn Evie Harper sat in the cabin, her hands firmly on the steering wheel, her eyes focused on the windshield. In front, the team trucks formed a living wall, surrounding the motorcycle group like a giant net that was gradually tightening. Evelyn's heart pounded, but not because of fear, but because of the intense determination that surged in her chest. This is the moment that she and her teammates have been preparing for all these days. The Iron Fong MC gang is not easily subdued. One by one, they jumped out of the car, their faces cold and fierce, but their eyes gradually changed color when they realized the rhythmic and resolute coordination from the drivers. Evelyn stepped down from the cabin, her figure small but exuding a tough aura. "Stop as soon as you get the chance," she said, her voice deep and powerful in the midst of the tense space. The leader, Wolf, stepped forward, his eyes burning with anger. "You don't know who you're up against?" he growled, but his threat only made Evelyn more determined. "We know very well what we're doing," she replied, her eyes like a knife blade piercing him. Just as Wolf was about to give the order to attack, the sound of truck horns sounded simultaneously, ear-piercing, and stunned the motorcycle group. Fellow drivers, one by one, stepped out of their cars, their hands clenched in their self-defense gear, their eyes quiet but full of power. Under the pressure of the driver community, the motorcycle gang began to be embarrassed. The clash quickly became an overwhelming one, as the tactics and coordination of the drivers far outstripped the aggression of the criminal group. Evelyn held her ground, observing each development with the composure of a leader. As the lights of the police car flashed in the distance, signaling the arrival of federal forces, Evelyn took a deep breath, her hands relaxed. The war is over. As Wolf and his companions were led away in handcuffs, Evelyn turned to look at her comrades. They were tired, but there was relief and pride on their faces. She nodded slightly, her heart filled with emotion, not because of a personal victory, but because of the power of unity that had helped them defend what they believed to be true. When the confrontation ended, Evelyn Evie Harper stood quietly in the middle of the parking lot, lights from trucks and police cars reflecting off her face, highlighting every wrinkle on the sunburned skin of the battle-hardened woman. It was not joy, but a strange feeling of heaviness that enveloped her mind. The motorcycles of the Iron Fong MC gang are now nothing more than scrap metal, and the criminals are handcuffed. But in Evelyn's heart, the echoes of the war still linger. Everything does not end in a brilliant victory as one might think, but in a contemplative silence. She stood there, clutching the steering wheel of her Freightliner, her eyes looking into the distance. Yes, the gang was defeated, but the price was too high. Injured drivers, the roads they protect are no longer the same as before. All has changed. The fierceness of the confrontation and the commitment of the driver community to protect each other made Evelyn deeply feel her responsibility. Not just defending justice, but protecting the survival of a community she has been a part of for so many years. When federal forces took over and began working, Evelyn and her comrades entered the small diner, where the eyes met quietly. Each of them understands that, although this victory is a turning point, it is also a sign of opening a new journey. From now on, not only them, but also thousands of other drivers will no longer be alone on distant roads. The network of protection has been built, and the legacy of solidarity, of those who do not succumb to evil, will continue to be preserved. Evelyn sat down by the counter, her gaze slowly turning towards the window, where the darkness gradually fell. She doesn't need praise or honor, because she knows that the actions of her and her teammates have created a legacy greater than any individual victory.